IronSmithy. First of all,
Yes.
before we get to the good stuff, let's talk about what got you started into streaming. What got you into this whole streaming thing that we do?
So I mean, this is a long story that I'll make short, but I mean, obviously it started with my passion and love for gaming that always had growing up. I mean, my whole family played games, my sisters, later on brother-in-laws, parents, like everybody. We all played games and stuff like that. So I've had like a deep-seated passion for gaming. And I mean, I was diagnosed ADD as a kid, which I know is odd to include into this story, but there's a reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
With that, I've always had a lot of energy. I've always been very uh, animated, I guess you could say, and very active. And I've had multiple people throughout my life that said, hey, like when streaming became a thing as I was growing up, they're like, you should give it a shot, try out content creation. And it was something that I always dreamed of, but was
Mm-hmm.
also like, how am I going to pay the bills? Because that was the bigger focus, and so I took some twists and some turns on my journey to start streaming. I was military for 12 years with a couple tours overseas, and then I went into construction, and then did a couple other things. But eventually landed here. I started March 26th of last year. Thanks to some encouragement from actually one of the members of Method Gaming, the chief financial officer, the CFO of Method Gaming. Actually, I managed to meet in a very, very roundabout way through a game called Last Oasis. We ended up in the same guild together,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously he started streaming, and we got to chatting and hit it off. And next thing you know, he's introducing me to Pipeline, and it all started from there. So that's how, in a very roundabout way, I came to start creating content.
It's good. It's good. Now you more focus on a more specific game. Now you do play other games, but you're most notable for the game Sea of Thieves. In fact,
Yeah.
you've centered your entire stream around this singular game. Now here we do a lot of variety games. Our focus is mostly chatting, but we play random games just kind of out of there. So you have a very different perspective than what we do here, doing the variety gaming and mostly the chatting stuff. What was it
Mhm.
about Sea of Thieves that made you go, "This is the game I want to focus on"?
So I think it really came down to just how engaging it was right from the beginning. So how this sort of looked is I started off playing Last Oasis. That's where I got my start, and I got a lot of initial traction from that game due to getting a creator only access 2 days prior to the game going live. So
Mm-hmm.
because I was one of few content creators that was streaming the game before it was even live, it allowed me to start gaining followers and viewers earlier than most would normally, like jumping into a more saturated game like Modern Warfare or World of Warcraft or something like
Yeah.
that, right? That has such a high viewer base that it's so hard to get noticed. So that gave me my first start, and then the game sort of started to die off. And then as the game was dying off, I'm like, crap, I need I need to find somewhere else to go. Like this is gonna start hurting me more than it's helping me. So I reached out to my community, and I had some amazing members that suggested Sea of Thieves. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, sure, I've heard of it. I had watched Neebs Gaming do like their thing with it. Which was a very, very small portion of the game. I come to find out later uh, of what the game actually includes, right? Because they really just focus on the
Mm-hmm.
story stuff, and then they have their own playful banter that they
Yeah.
throw into it to create their content. So I'm like, it looked okay. Like from Neebs, we'll give it a shot. And then I jumped into it. I was like, oh crap! I'm like, there's PvP. There's like high action moments. There's like all this other stuff that goes into it too. And I'm like, all right. And within my first session, I was hooked, and I
Yeah.
never looked back. It wasn't even like a slow transition. It was like we went from playing Last Oasis to I know that I can make some good content with this, and I'm
Yeah.
going all in on Sea of Thieves because at this point, Last Oasis was already sort of falling onto its hind legs. So I'm like, that's what I'm doing. And it's just the variety that Sea of Thieves provides. I mean, you can one day you could do like Tall Tales, which is the story mode stuff, and then you could jump in and focus on the PvE content and world events, and then you could just focus solely on PvP and still make it the world small enough that you're still able to make an entire session just out of PvP
Yeah.
without having to go too far out of your way. So I mean, there's so much variety with it. And I think that's what keeps me hooked because my ADD again, when things are too repetitive, I get bored and then I want to change. So, but
Yeah.
Sea of Thieves gives me that variety that I need and the ability to keep creating new content without it getting too stale over time. So,
I remember playing Sea of Thieves, as you saw in my intro, because you're like, wait, wait.
yeah.
I saw Sea of Thieves in there. I played Sea of Thieves for a while. I love the game. It was such a beautiful game, man. Like the level of detail when you're just out in the water and just everything's going. I remember sitting there just admiring the ocean and the light hitting the water. I also remember it going completely black and I had my first Kraken experience. Um, and be like, what the hell is going on? Like, this was very early on. Now, I didn't continue playing it like you have. So obviously, you've taken really the reins of Sea of Thieves and really kind of built your niche around it,
Mhm.
which is something that we talk about a lot. Is find your path, find which we'll get into a little bit later about finding like your authenticity, as we talk about the pillars of success. But before we get into that, what was your first stream like compared to now?
It's funny you mentioned that because we're sitting together today, 3 days before our 1 year anniversary.
Nice.
So recently I've been doing some reflecting. I've been going back. I'm trying to maybe create a little some for the 1 year anniversary, and I've been
Mm-hmm.
reflecting back on like my first streams and going through clips and stuff like that. And the it was way different than what it is today, let me tell you.
All right.
Not only from setup, quality, interaction, comfort, like how comfortable I am in front of the camera, like everything has changed so much. My knowledge obviously has grown exponentially thanks to a lot of factors, pipeline being a massive, massive factor
Mm-hmm.
in that. Opening my eyes to like how big this world actually is, and allowing me to sort of run with it. But yeah, it's my first stream compared to today was a much bigger or much different story, that's for sure. But we all got to start somewhere, right?
Exactly.
We gotta take that risk and we gotta hit that go live button the first time. And if it's a complete flop, it's a complete flop. But you need to take those steps to be able to get better. You need to learn from the bad experiences and reflect on them to create better experiences moving forward.
So I like to ask this question because it really kind of puts perspective into anyone that is watching that might be brand new to streaming or maybe even struggling. A lot of people think that your first stream has to be perfect, and I see this so much. People come into and in Pipeline. We'll use Pipeline as an example because we're both members of Pipeline, both affiliates of Pipeline, which is exciting. But I see a lot of people come in there and they want the full overhaul. They want it to look the best. They want it to sound the best. They want to hire editors with their first week. Everyone thinks that it needs to be perfect, but there's so much growth that has to happen before you ever even need to really consider any of that.
Mhm.
Um, how do you feel you've grown since your first stream?
Yeah, I mean it's been there's been struggles, there's been ups, there's been downs, there's been some extreme high points and some lower points where and I think that's something to get into your mind early. If you're looking to get into content creation, don't assume it's always going to be in an upward trajectory, right? Like I had a very strong start. It grew really quick. And then as I kept growing and I was getting into, like I qualified for Twitch partner, my viewers were up there, everything like that. And then I made some poor decisions as I went into like a season change, right? We went into October. It was spooky month. I love Halloween and everything
Mm-hmm.
like that. So instead of like having 1 or 2 days, or maybe for a week, sort of going all in with the spooky theme, I sort of went all month and went from streaming Sea of Thieves, 5, 6 days a week to streaming Sea of Thieves like 1 day a week. And then I was introducing like VR and Phasmophobia and Dead by Daylight and all these different games that are so left side from Sea of Thieves
Yeah.
that it ended up sort of biting me in the rear end quite a bit. I lost about 40% of my average viewer base and took a hit, but at the same time, it sort of opened my eyes as to, okay, I did that wrong. How can I do that better? Right. Instead of
Mm-hmm.
like just sitting and being depressed about it or anything like that, I took it as a learning experience. Be like, okay, we're still just starting. Yes, we lost a bit of traction here, but how can we build from here? How can we make it better? It also opened my eyes to like who my core audience is, and I leaned on them to give me ideas and ways that we could turn it around. And now we're back on that upward trajectory again, doing
Yeah.
things the right way and building up more on those pillars that we'll talk about a little later here.
Yeah. Um, so I'm curious, where did IronSmithy come from? Where did the name where did the name IronSmith? Because I get asked all the time about my name, and I'm like, it's not as awesome as it sounds, but
Yeah.
it's really. Um, but yeah, where did the name IronSmithy come from?
Yeah, so I actually get this a lot. I didn't think it would be such a talking point, but essentially, so my last name IRL is Smith, right? So that was an easy tie-in. But where Ironsmithy came from is I have a fascination, I guess you could say, with like medieval lore and everything like that. And I even took up apprentice blacksmithing or ironsmithing
Hmm.
when I was in my previous house. Because when I moved here, we didn't check bylaws before moving in, and then found out we can't have like any outdoor burning flames of any type or anything that produces smoke, let alone
Yeah.
burning charcoal. So I couldn't have the forge here, but I had my own like backyard forge back where I was living when I was still in the military. I was making everything from knives to like chainmail armor and everything like that. um, so I had a passion for ironsmithing, for working with metal and everything like that. And then when I went to game, myself and one of my buddies, we were sitting down and we're trying to come up with like a cool, tag for doing content. Like, because at the time I was only able to do YouTube, I wasn't able to do streaming because the internet was too crappy. Um, so
Feel that.
and he's sort of the one that pitched it. He's like, well, why don't you just run with Ironsmithy? I mean, it ties into your IRL name. It's something you're
Hmm.
passionate about, and it's something that you could easily like throw into a brand as well. And I'm like, yeah, I like it. And that's pretty much how it all came together. So but yeah.
It works. I mean, it's unique and no one else has it, which
Yep.
is great. Which is something that it's something you want to strive for. Um,
Yeah.
there are a couple mighty gamer dads apparently out there in the world, so having a unique name is great. Captain knows what I'm talking about, don't you, Captain Redbeard? There's no Captain Redbeards out there. None. It's a sore spot for him on that one. Um, so let's talk about your failures a little bit, because I know it's not something that people want to talk about often. It's like hearing about failures, but I think as we grow, we kind of start to accept those failures that we've had as learning points. But what was one of your biggest setbacks or failures that you had early on?
Yeah, so I think we just touched on that, right? My month of October was definitely the biggest setback that I sort of incurred so far, where we took a big drop in viewership. And we're rebuilding on that now. I mean, some other things that I have learned is I am still to this day, but I was more so very community driven, where I was always bringing in, like, every day I would stream would be a galleon with crew members from the community, because I wanted to bring the community in as much as possible.
Hmm.
But what I found with that is it made it very hard to push the level of content to bring something new all the time, when we were always on the same type of ship, always with a new crew. Sort of like every time you're with a new crew, you got to learn how they work, what they do, how they communicate. So you're sort
Yeah.
of in that same cycle, stream in, stream out, over and over again. So um, from there, after doing some reflection on that, I'm like, okay, we got to switch it up a bit. We got to have some static crews where I could push the level of skill, like when we're, pushing to do some, like high street or high sync streams or something like that, where we're going to like wipe servers and stuff like that. I need to have a
Hmm.
crew that I know that if I say I'm jumping off, they know to like angle the ship and put fire down range to keep pressure, like that we work together as a
Yeah.
team, which I have those crews now, which is awesome. And then we also switch it up. Now I do a day, like tomorrow morning, I'll do a stream with Alea Sabrina, who's in chat right now. We'll do a Tall Tale stream. So just doing the story mode. We're going through to get our gold curse. We'll do only Tall Tales. We listen to some sea shanties the entire stream, and it's max relax. One of the only morning streams I ever do. I do two morning
Yeah.
streams a week, and one of them we just dedicate to doing the story. No syncing, no PvP. Although sometimes, we get a little frisky and we got to send some people down to Davy Jones. But for the most part, we just do tall tales. And then so we are adding more variety. It came
Yeah.
for a while, it was very repetitive, always doing the same thing, same ship, same crew. And since then, and that was sort of hurting my viewers as well. So I think the combination with that, plus my bad choices in October, tied together to that large viewer drop that we took.
Yeah.
Um, but since then, we've modified the content. We've added some static crews. We go between all the ships now. So every day of the week, you'll see everything from sloop to brigantine to galleon. And you'll have sort of everything in between story, world mission, loot halls, like PvE loot halls and stuff like that, to like let's try to wipe the server PvP streams, right? So we
Yeah.
incorporate everything that Sea of Thieves has to offer. We throw some stream loots in there as well to get the community involved, to try to, it's basically become the community versus the streamer that streamed, to see if I could stay afloat or if they're going to send me to Davy Jones. But that's sort of how we've done it and how we've learned from our failures to like
Yeah.
maximize our success.
So what you're saying is, in October of 2021, there's not going to be a full month long of horror streams.
That is facts. That is facts. Yeah.
So what I took away from this is that we're not getting a month long IronSmithy spooky streams. And
No, no, that is for sure. That is for sure. We will still definitely throw some in. We will still definitely decorate the office like we did last year, with some animatronics and all that kind of stuff in the studio. But r- we'll stick with our regular
yeah,
scheduled broadcasting, if you will, and then we'll probably throw in a couple either Halloween Day or a little closer to Halloween than the entire month.
it's good. Now I kind of moved into Twitch doing a month long of spooky streams, and so that's what I kind of like almost branded myself as. So that was kind of like my mistake. We almost made the same mistake, but for kind of very similar reasons, but very different things. Like I was entering Twitch doing horror streams, so when I switched over to new games in November, I saw a significant drop. It was
Yeah.
like people are like, I like watching you jump and scream. This is not fun. So, um,
Yeah.
so we compromise and we do it once a week. We do a horror stream once a week. And we do it till we beat that game. So I've compromised, chat. This is how we compromise. So you can still see this grown ass man scream every once in a while. So how do you feel?
Absolutely.
How do you view failure? I can talk. How do you view failure now, versus when you started? Like how do you approach failure?
So I approach any failure, whether it's even a small failure, like something in Sea of Thieves where we boarded a ship, let's say we should have had the sink and we didn't for whatever reason. I'll go back into that VOD and I'll rewatch it to see how I could have done it better, how I could have learned from it, or whatever I could do to make myself better. And I've used streaming in the same way. If I mess up, and quote me on it, I will mess up again. It's gonna happen. It's part of life. But I treat each failure, every struggle, anything that we come across as a learning experience, because that's essentially what they are. You made a mistake, but it doesn't mean you can't learn from it. So instead
Mm-hmm.
of you know diving into myself and sort of shutting down and beating myself up over it, I'm going to reflect on it, look at it, be like, what did I do? How can I fix it? And how can I learn from this? As opposed to just shutting down and walking away, or hoping it all goes away. One of the two. But there's always something to learn, whether you fail or succeed. There's no such thing as failure, in my opinion. There's learning opportunities, and that's
Yeah.
what it comes down to, in my opinion.
Which I think that mindset applies to beyond the gaming as well, just like in life in general. Um, and I know early on there's a lot of streamers that I've talked to that really try to strive not to fail. Which I mean, I think we all do. We don't. No one wants to fail. No one wants
Yeah,
to mess up or anything like that. But a lot of times they're terrified to the point that they won't do certain things because they're afraid that they might mess it up. It's not perfect, so to speak. Um,
yeah.
how do you approach new content? Like when you're going to do new content, like do you have to plan it out completely, and make sure that every nook and cranny is covered, or do you do like I do, is have like a general outline and just dive right in and pray that you float? So,
Yeah, I mean, now there's always an element of planning that goes into it, right? So I could use a really good example here. Is last Sunday, myself and Sugar Socks, I dove back into World of Warcraft. So
mhm.
I am a longtime World of Warcraft veteran, if you will. I started playing in the beta when it was first released 17 years ago. Played pretty much every year all the way through. So I've been playing it off and on for over 17 years. But I never thought I would stream it because it's so saturated. And it's been around for so long that everybody has their established streamers that they watch. And, on Sea of Thieves, I tend to be on around, line 4, or even when I was first starting, I was like 2 pages in.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with World of Warcraft, you'd be like 50 pages in, right? It's a big difference when people are searching for streamers and stuff like that. So, but we took a leap this Sunday. I jumped in again with it, with her and her community, and we had a blast with it. I mean, yes, there's an element of planning that went into it, more so on her side because she was sort of organizing the event. But I mean, I still had to plan like what character I had to get some questing done to get to like where she
Mm-hmm.
was at. I had to prepare everything into that. But then once we got into it, it's like, all right, what are we doing? Let's go. Like I didn't have every second of it planned down or anything like that, but it was a mixture of the two. And it's always scary as a content creator when you're going something so left side from like what you stream every day, right? You're like, how's this gonna go?
Yeah.
It's gonna go one of two ways. Either it's gonna do well or it's gonna tank. And it's like, which way is this one gonna go?
Yeah.
Um, but it's always exciting to try something new because you never know. Like Valheim, I switched it up. Now it does have some overlap sort of with Sea of Thieves. There is some sailing, sort of similar-ish genres and stuff like that. And I mean, when I added that in, so I do Sea of Thieves 5 days a week, and then I have one variety day on my Sundays. And so Valheim gets introduced on the Sundays, and then World of Warcraft. So it's like every 2 weeks that we're sort of playing around with my schedule for that variety day. And it's Valheim did really well, and I was
Mm-hmm.
surprised the first time I played it. I was like, I like this game, let's see what the community thinks. And the community really latched on and got involved and jumped in, and we rented a server, and now I got a bunch of members within the community that are part of the server, and it's really took off. So it's exciting to try something new, as long as you do it in the right way, where you're not like dropping your if you're a single game streamer, don't drop your single game all in all to introduce something new. Introduce it maybe
Yeah.
once a week, once every 2 weeks, feel it out, talk to the community, because at the end of the day, they're the ones watching the content. So
Yeah.
get their opinion on it. Do they like it? Do they not like it? Would they like to see it introduced in a different way? And go from there.
Which is great information, and we're actually going to get over to the pillars of success. And one of the first things we want to talk about, because you're talking a lot about your community,
Yeah.
which is actually one of the pillars of success that we wanted to talk about. So, chat, before we started, we actually had a little bit of an outline plan. Now, I don't normally do this, but I was kind of nervous, and I wanted to make sure this interview went well. So we talked about some things that we wanted to kind of really relay to everyone as information. And so we landed on forging the pillars of success. It was nice play on words. I know. I thought it came up. I thought of that one. So, but one of the first ones we talked about was community. And you talked about getting your community involved in your decision making with some of the games that you play. But before we get a little bit deeper into that, how do you build your community? Like, what is your focus on your community?
I mean, the community is everything, in my opinion, right? The community is there for you in chat. The community keeps you hyped. The community keeps your energy up. The community is there to support you for what you do. And based on how you interact with them is how you're going to keep them there,
Mhm.
right? If you In my opinion, one of the biggest things as a streamer, and I know this can be somewhat controversial sometimes, although in my eyes it's not, it's very cut and clear, that interacting with your community and with your chat should be your number one focus as a content creator. I know it's one of my biggest
Mhm.
uh turnoffs, if you will, if I go into a stream and I have to type the same thing like 8 times to get a question answered or something like that. Like it's obviously varying on how many people are watching, but if I'm in a
Yeah.
stream with like 20 viewers and you don't acknowledge my message like for 20, 30 minutes or something like that, I'm probably not going to stick around.
Yeah.
um Nor will I send you a raid if I send you a message and you don't reply. That's sort of the other thing, right? Because my
Y-
community expects people to be active with them and answering their questions and being involved, and that's, to me, is everything, because without them I'm nothing, right? So I rely very heavily on my community, not only to not only in chat, but also like in our Discord. I'm constantly engaging with them, talking with them, asking them about their days, getting their input. They do game suggestions. They do. I mean, it was through them that we structured, going from sloop to brigs to galleons and like introducing the different content. Cause I asked them, I was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Would you like it? Would you not like it? Do you like what we're currently doing? And the majority of them were like, no, we would like to see some, diversity. We'd like to see more than just galleons on stream and stuff. So that's what I did. If that's what they want to watch, then that's what
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do, right? So,
Yeah.
so I rely extremely heavily on my community. Everything within my stream is done by community members, from my logos to my graphics to my overlays, alerts. Everything has all been made by community members of the Forge,
Mm-hmm.
which I am extremely grateful for, to have not only such an amazing community, but a generous community that's willing to do stuff like that to enhance the stream and the experience for everybody. So yeah, I mean, I community is everything in my eyes.
Which I 100% agree with you. Anyone that's been watching this long enough has heard me harp many, many times on building a community. I think it's one of your biggest focuses as a content creator, that you should put more emphasis on your community than your advertising of your links, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, but for those that maybe haven't quite built a community yet, that are trying to build a community, what are some of the first steps you recommend them doing to kind of start growing their community?
So when I first started, I would constantly sort of narrate what I was doing, right? Because when you are first getting started and you don't have the viewers that are constantly asking you questions and keeping chat active and stuff like that. So right like these days I can sort of feed off of chat and keep my conversation and what we're talking about going based on what chat's asking and what we're saying and all that kind of stuff. But when I first started, there was nobody in chat, right? Like you're
Mm-hmm.
you're by yourself. And when somebody clicks on your stream, there's thousands of other people they could click on. So I wanted to always have some sort of communication going, that if they did stop by and I'm talking, it's not just dead silence. It's not just a music track playing. I'm talking, I'm active. And then a lot of times it would trigger a question, be like, so a lot of this happened during Last Oasis, and it'd be like, okay, I'm on this ship right now. We're going to this location. We're looking to scout for this. This is why we're doing it this way instead of doing it this way. And I would constantly like always be talking about like why we were doing things, how we were doing things, what we were using to accomplish those things. And that way it would trigger questions from people just stopping by to be like, oh, well, why are you doing it like that instead of like this? Right. And then boom, I've got somebody in chat that I can now engage with and talk to, and get them more involved into the community. And as soon as they type in chat, my goal is to respond within 10 to 15 seconds,
Yeah.
to get them there before they click off. If they type in chat and you take 10, 15 minutes to get back to them, they're probably already clicked off and gone somewhere else.
Yeah.
Um, so we have a very, very short window to grab onto a new viewer when they're there, just because all of social media, not just Twitch, but it's so it's so easy to go find somebody else, right? It's so easy to click off and go anywhere else that it takes no time. If you leave a lull, or if you, it doesn't mean you have to constantly be talking the
Yeah.
whole time. I mean, you're gonna go through gallons of water, but just like keep, say little things here and there, like why you're doing certain things, or why you're, like there's grappling and stuff, like why are you swinging through the trees, right? Like just sort of explaining what you're doing and how you're doing it and why you're doing it, so that they have something to ask you or question you on or something like that. Was sort of how I started off in building my community. And then, as like I said, as soon as they come into chat, acknowledging their presence right away. If they drop a follow, acknowledge it right away. Give them that recognition for leaving a follow, and then build that relationship with them once they're in chat.
Yeah. How long would you say it took you to really kind of build a community that you felt was like, okay, things are moving in the right direction now. Like this is actually happening. How long did it really take to get to that point?
Well, I mean, I feel like my situation is different than most, right? So I always preface any question
Mm-hmm.
like this, with, just because this happened to me doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for everybody, right? I was in a very, very niche game that had a very, very dedicated community, um, but also had a lot of um, stream sniping and stuff like that that led to higher viewer counts and higher chat volumes than what the average streamer would see early on.
Yeah.
So myself, I would say I had an active chat and an active community within my second month. Now
Nice.
that was, but I had to work at it. I had to work at it
Yeah.
hard because, like I said, a lot of it was stream sniping, and a lot of it was people coming in to yes chat, but also gain
A little bit of an
knowledge.
advantage over what's
Gain an
going on.
advantage and gain some knowledge about what I was doing and all that kind of stuff. So they weren't necessarily there for the right reasons all the time. But I'm a firm believer in killing people with kindness. I mean, I run a PG stream. A lot of times we'd have people come in that I knew were stream sniping, and they came in to talk trash after we've either killed them or they killed us or whatnot,
Uh-huh.
and I just wouldn't give into it, right? I won't give in to the trash talking. I won't give in. I'll ban you before you let before I let any toxicity into my community.
Yeah.
Because I'm building a nice community. It's community driven, and I'm not going to let anybody tarnish that. But I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. If you come in talking trash, then I'm going to kill you with kindness. And essentially, my reply a lot of time would be like, "Thank you so much for coming by. Great fight. I appreciate it." And some of these people that came into Stream Snipe are now mods in my channel, are now dedicated viewers of the Forge that realize, like, man, this guy's actually a good dude. Like,
Hmm.
there's no reason to be here trash talking to him. And I had an entire one of the biggest moments on my stream came from an engagement where we were fighting somebody else. We had done a ton of damage to them, and then we retreated off so that we didn't sustain any casualties as their second wave of like assault came in. And then they came in talking trash, and we're talking like hundreds of viewers
Yeah.
coming in because their guild was massive. And they started off same way, try and talk trash, and then I killed them with kindness. They're like, "You're actually a good dude," and I'm like, "Yep." And thank you for coming by. I appreciate you, the view and this and that. And they ended up sticking around, and a lot of them to this day are still very active members of my community. Uh, that has helped pushed us forward. So sort of leveraging stream sniping, knowing that I was in a large guild that would attract a lot of attention,
Hmm.
help me build that community. As long as you're willing to handle it the right ways and not sort of give into the trash talking and toxicity, right? Because then you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. I think one of the most important things I think you said too that for those that didn't pick up on it is he didn't lower himself to the same level of where everyone else was at. He maintained that level of professionalism and compassion and kindness and was like, listen, thank you for being here, like, and truly showed what his community stream is about. Many times it can be very easy to get sucked into the drama and the nonsense that happens uh, from negative people that will come in and try to be negative in your stream. um, so one, do that, do what he said. Do that more. But I think it's really important, like, you should just kind of don't stoop that low and just remain the better person, the bigger person. And it's paid off, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got people that are in his stream, in his community now, that came in mad and left. Well, I'm not gonna say glad. That just sounds like a commercial. Um, um, what do you call your community? The Forge,
Member of the Forge.
the
Yeah.
member of the Forge. Yes. So they're like mini smithies. We're gonna call them mini smiths. So community is a huge part. One of the four pillars that we talked about for your success. The things that you for like how you built your success. The second thing is authenticity. What does authenticity mean to you, and why is it important?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just to me, anyways, it's sort of a no-brainer. But unless you're gonna go like full Doctor Disrespect into a persona, where that is like you and what you're focusing on, if you try to be anybody who you're not, it's gonna show through, and the viewers are gonna see it. They're not dumb, they're not blind. Eventually, you're gonna slip in one way or another, and they're gonna see through you if you're pretending to be fake or something you're not. Like I said, unless you're going like full scale, like Doctor Disrespect or some other massive personalities that is their niche, that is what they've chosen to do, and they dive in and they never falter. Then be yourself. Don't pretend to
Yeah.
be somebody you're not, because eventually you're going to slip up, or you're not going to be consistent on social media with your branding, or there's going to be somewhere where it's going to leak through. Your viewers are going to see it, it's going to come back to bite you in your rear end. So my thing has always been just be honest, be truthful. If I have to be emotional, and it's happened more times than not. A lot of people in chat now have probably already seen the Twitter posts of the community breaking me. I mean, that's who I am.
Yeah.
When people have an outpouring of support, I get emotional. That's who I am. I'm not going to pretend to be some big, tough, macho army dude or something like that, because that is me in one side, but there's the emotional side of
Yeah.
myself as well. And I don't try to hide it. I don't try to be something I'm not. Um, and I know we said we're taking questions for later, but I did notice a question in chat from Mad Max asking if I'm PG in my off time as well.
Yeah. Which we can
And
answer.
not
We can answer. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and not just on my streams. And the question or the answer to that is I've made great lengths to being PG more in my off time as well, since my kids have been born. And obviously, my kids were born before I started streaming. So, but I do come from a military background. I mean, my dad's a trucker and everything like that. So I come from a very non PG background, so to say. Never a toxic background, but I mean, my vocabulary definitely has more non PG words in it than it has the last couple of years. But since my kids have been born, I've definitely been trying to tone it down with that. And when I knew when I started creating content that I'm like, I want this to be something my kids can watch, that they can be proud of.
Mhm.
And I mean, now my son goes around with his iPad recording vlogs and stuff like that, and he's like, "I'm Mini Smithy," and like all this kind of stuff. So it's super cute to see,
Yeah.
and it is something I strive to do outside. Do I slip up every now and then? Absolutely, but yeah, it is something I try to do off stream as well, especially more so in the last 6 years since my kids have been born.
That's awesome. Sorry, I'm reading something in chat, but you
No worries.
listening to One Direction. Said, this is why I ignored chat, because I'll read something funny and I'll just randomly laugh, and it just sounds like I'm laughing at what you're saying versus what people are saying in chat. So, because they're having a discussion whether you listen to metal music, and then someone's like, "Oh no," Sugar Bunny's like, "No, he listens to One Direction." Considering
Just
considering
because
it
I
was
sing it one time on stream. Um,
so, but so the third thing you talked about for your pillars of success was consistency. And what does that mean to you, and why is that important in as a streamer?
yeah, so consistency, I mean, I think it ties into not only being a streamer, but just like it definitely ties into being a streamer, but with a family as well, right? Being married, two kids,
Mm-hmm.
everything like that. I have had to be very structured in everything I did when it came to content creation. I have specific days, specific times. I had a specific schedule since the very first stream till now. My schedule has only changed within like an hour of itself. And then we added in as time went on, but we never really took away anything from my very first schedule a year ago. So it's always been after 7:30, minimum 5 days a week, till about for when we first started, we went till midnight. And then after like reviewing some analytics and stuff like that, we found that our viewers would always dip from rate like a clockwork at 11 p.m. A good portion of the viewers would always dip off
Yeah.
from 11 p.m. till midnight. So we're just like, all right, so we'll cut that last hour. We'll just end at 11 then.
Yep.
And since we did that, that's what sort of pushed us to be able to qualify for Twitch partner. We still haven't got Twitch partner yet, but we'll get it eventually. And we are qualified and everything like that. And it was by taking a look at those analytics and being structured and scheduled and modifying based on certain aspects. But I mean, right from the very beginning, I had to sit down with my wife, chat it out, be like, listen, I really want to take this seriously.
Mm-hmm.
What days work for you? What days don't work for you? What times work? And scheduling that all out to make sure that she was on board, because if we were constantly fighting back and forth on it, it wouldn't be good for obviously my mental
Yeah.
health. It wouldn't be good for her, and it would probably lead to more serious things coming out of it. So I knew that that was what we had to do, and we had to have a schedule. So she knew, okay, like these days, this time he's gone. I got to do, I got to take care of the kids, or I got to do whatever else. And at the same time, on the flip side of things, for the viewers, they know at 7:30 p.m., IronSmithy goes live on these days. Just like your favorite TV shows, if they know when it is, then they're going to know to tune in at that time to be there for you.
Mm-hmm.
But if your schedule's all over the place and you're like, oh, this week, you have a morning stream, then you have a nighttime stream, then you have a midday stream, and then the next week it's like all nighttime streams, and then the next week after that it's all daytime streams. Well, then your viewers aren't going to know when to catch you, right? Because you're all
Yeah.
over the place. So by having, I sort of relate it to TV in that sense, is like I know when my favorite TV shows play, and I know that if I want to catch it the minute it's out, I got to be there at that time on that day to be able to see it, right? And it's and I think it plays into Twitch a lot as well because there is like streaming is becoming a lot more mainstream,
Yep.
just like Netflix and everything like that. Like everything we watch these days are stream content. So um it's something that definitely I feel has been a big portion to my success because very like I might cancel a stream here or there, you know, power outage or internet outage or something like that happens. You know, my dog crashed through the fence 2 weeks ago and I had to go repair the fence so we could
Yeah.
keep our animals and our kids contained. So I had to cancel a stream. So I'll cancel a stream here and there, but I make sure to let them know in the Discord and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. But I'll never just randomly throw in a stream without giving them tons of notice
Yeah.
first, or I'll never really modify my schedule without telling them ahead of time.
So
So
when you cancel a stream, how many messages did you get of people going, "I don't know what to do right now because you're not on"?
I definitely get a few of those. I definitely get a few of those. They're like, well, now what are we gonna do with our night, right? Um, yeah, we definitely. I think we all get the same thing from our communities. And that it's a feel good thing, and it also makes me feel like,
Mhm.
damn, I feel really bad for canceling, right? But
Yeah, yeah,
and I honestly think it's a fear that a lot of streamers have as well, is canceling a stream. Like they feel like no matter how they're feeling, they have to push through, they have to go live, otherwise they're going to lose all the viewers. And I'll tell you right now, that's not the case.
yeah.
Um, you're a human. You're like everybody understands it. You're gonna have your ups and your downs. If you're not feeling it, if you're feeling down and you know you can't bring that same level of energy, in my opinion, it's better to cancel your stream or to give it a shot. And if you know you just can't get yourself into that mindset to just end early because I feel it'll hurt you worse if you're there and you're out of it and the community's gonna see. In my opinion, I'd rather just cancel the stream, get my headspace and timing right, and then get back into it bigger and better the next day, right? So
Yeah.
um,
And
there's sort of a stigma around canceling streams and people pushing through, and then that's when you run into burnout, in my opinion, as well, right? So
I think this perfectly segues into the last pillar, which is balance and finding balance in what you're doing. So let's talk about balance a little bit. Like how do you balance everything? What are you doing? How do you balance time versus work? First of all, before we even get to that, how much more are you working now than like 3 months ago? Now that you've kind of blown up a little bit more.
yeah, so the scholarship has definitely introduced a lot more, not strain, but a lot more constraints on my schedule, right? Because now there's the extra meetings and the extra content and the extra requirements and assets that they need and stuff like that as part of the stream. But at the same time, it gives you the entire point of the scholarship is to help you transition into becoming a full-time creator. And by with the workload that they put on, it really puts you into that mindset. Like, this is it. Like I'm doing this. Like, so basically this month it's come down to my realization where I'm like, I'm a full-time content creator. I think it really sort of sunk in like this last week.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you a real taste. Like there's so much more that goes into streaming than just hitting that go live button. Like there's meetings with brands, there's meetings with potential collabs, there's mentorship that goes on, either you mentoring somebody else or somebody mentoring you. There's social posts that have to go out. There's YouTube videos that need to be edited. There's promotions for events that you're hosting that need to be fleshed out and sent out, and invites sent out to people who are going to be part of that. And I mean, my days now, I stream about 22 to 25 hours a week, and I probably do at least 30 plus hours of behind the scenes work every week now. And it's everything, like I said, everything that I just listed there, from meetings to creating content to storyboarding to the list goes on and on and on. There's so much
Yeah.
more that goes into it than just hitting that go live button. that's my break. Hitting the go live button. It's like, yes, now we get to go have fun with the community, and I get to take a bit of a break. But that's sort of the reality of it. And I
Yeah.
think that some people that get into content creation don't realize that they either think it's just as easy as hitting that go live button and people will come. Um, but there's a lot more to it, especially as you transition more into full time, that you need to do and you need to sustain to be able to keep growing and keep pushing yourself and coming up with new ideas.
So what you're saying is life hasn't gotten easier since you've gotten more followers and more views and doing more full-time content. I'm not saying it hasn't gotten easier in certain aspects because I'm sure it has, but at the same time, your workload is probably also increasing, which is something that I've tried to share with everyone. Like, listen, we're getting busy here. And I look at you, I'm like, this dude right over here, this side, this side. I'm still going to get, I don't know this backwards camera thing. Um, he is probably 10 times busier than I am, and I can't fathom it yet. Like, it blows my mind because I'm like, I feel like I'm busy all the time, that I don't do any gaming outside of stream anymore. Like, my stream is my getaway time.
Yeah.
Like you said, that's the time I wind down. Like, other than that, I'm working. I'm working all the time. I'm like you said, I'm creating content. I'm trying to dictate what's going to happen throughout the week, kind of
Yeah.
thing. But that brings us to balance, finding that balance. How have you found balance? How do you balance everything between work, which right now work is this, but also your life, family? Because I think it's an area that people tend to struggle with, trying to balance that work life, which is what we're doing here, streaming, and content creation, and also family, because you have
Yeah.
kids, you have a wife. It's not like you're sitting in front of a computer, 12 to 20 hours a day, just doing nothing. Like, you have other priorities and responsibilities going on. How do you balance it out?
Yeah, so it comes down a lot for one having the schedule, but also making sure you have that time as well. Taking the time. There's always something you could be doing. There's never a minute where I could be sitting on the couch and literally have nothing to do. Like if I'm sitting on the couch watching TV, it's because I choose to sit on the couch and watch TV. But there's probably 10 other things that I could or should be doing,
Yeah.
um, to help push the channel even further. And there's always going to be something more to do. Like recently, we've brought in, obviously, as part of the scholarship, the Zygo Media team has taken over my YouTube side of things, doing videos for us, taking care of all like the tagging, titling, thumbnails, like everything on the YouTube side is completely handled by them right now, which is a godsend. But at the same time, I just filled the space that I would take editing videos and stuff like that, and just found something else to do with that time instead.
Yep. Yep.
Um, but it's taking that time. Like Mondays, I'm very quiet on Discord. I'm very quiet on social media. Mondays are like my full day where I don't stream. I take that time morning to night with my kids, with my wife. We have a date night normally Tuesdays and Wednesday evenings.
Hmm.
Those are like definites every Tuesday and Wednesday. Sorry, Monday and Wednesday evening. We always have date night planned. And then in between streams, I do have like the times where I go downstairs and work. But then when I'm not working, when I leave my office, I make sure everything's wrapped up, done for what I need to do. And when I leave my office, it's time to focus on the kids. And, I'll still pick up my phone here and there and check when I can. But I don't make it like a focus. I turn my volume off and I check it on my time,
Hmm.
as opposed to like jumping at it right away. Because otherwise, I
Yeah.
mean, every 5 minutes I get a message. So, it could just consume all my time. But you gotta take that time. You gotta take that time to put your phone down, get away from the PC, and spend the time with the family so that they know how important they are in your life as well. So
Yeah. Which again, I know that a lot of people struggle with balance out there, which is one of the reasons I think we wanted to touch on this. What do you use to organize like your time, like your schedule? What are you using for, like, are you using apps? Are you using just like a handwritten calendar? Do you have like a wall where you just throw a dart and that's what you're doing that day? Like,
So this is actually a topic that was covered within the scholarship. So I got an amazing opportunity to meet with Stone's manager, I guess, his
mhm.
scheduler that does all the scheduling and everything for Stone Mountain 64, and he he sort of showed me how Stone like breaks down his time and how they schedule things and what apps they use and stuff like that. So since that meeting, um, it's got a lot less stressful because as we started to grow, I was like double booking myself, not like tonight at all. And
It's
and
just,
some other
I get it.
things
I get it.
where I wasn't effectively using like a calendar or an app or anything like that. And since I met with him, like I have a calendar now that is shared between myself, my community manager Alea in chat right now, and my wife. So it's shared between the three of us, and all can edit, all can add things and take things away and everything like that. And that
Hmm.
has made it now that I actually sat down and I'm like, okay, I'm streaming from this time to this time. This is the crew, or this stream, I don't have the crew filled yet. And that way, if Alea gets a message, she can plug it
Yeah.
in to the schedule as well. So I know when she's adding stuff, she knows when I'm adding stuff, and so on and so forth. We are also started using a web-based application, I guess, called Notion, which is another tool that like Stone Mountain and his team uses, and that we're using right now more for like video production. So when Pipeline requests an asset from me, let's say like I have to get this
Hmm.
video out for X reason or whatever, I could put it in there, and she and Alea is obviously in there with me, and she can see sort of as I do it, as I'm moving it over, when I'm working on it, and when it's complete and flushed out and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So if somebody's, let's say, trying to reach me, and she could like look through and be like, oh, he's working on this right now, he'll probably get back to you in a little bit, because it always happens where whenever you're the most busy is when somebody desperately
Yep.
needs to reach you for something, and you're not there to answer, right? So by putting those things in place, it's really helped me lock down more of my structure and avoid a lot of struggling, I guess,
Yeah.
with trying to
Yeah.
balance everything. It really opened up the means to be able to balance everything out, because now when I book an appointment, I can see, oh, my wife has 3 appointments this day. I have 2 appointments, and then I'm streaming later. So I know exactly when my gap is, as opposed to rely on my memory for everything, which we've
Yeah.
all come to learn is not very good. So uh,
Nobody's
so there's
is. Let's
always,
be honest. No one's is.
yeah. So by using a shared calendar with key people in your community and with your family, I think is a really big plus, and it's free to do. I mean, you use a Google Calendar, you can share it
Hmm.
with whoever you want. I've set one up specifically for like the IronSmithy business, if you will, and then I've shared that, and like I said, gave my wife access, my
Yeah.
community manager access, and that way between the three of us, generally things don't get missed.
Awesome. So obviously, guys, balance is very, very important. I think it kind of helps also to kind of go from feeling like you're just busy and you don't know what you're doing with your time to actually being productive with the time that you have, which was an issue that I had. But for anyone in the chat, this is a time where if you have a question, feel free to ask it using the channel point redemption, because the chat's moving and I don't want to say I'm ignoring you, but I'm ignoring you for the most part because you guys make me laugh. And I'm trying to have a professional interview here. So feel free to drop questions in there. We're going to be wrapping up in about 15 minutes or so. Depends on how many questions you guys have. But we're going to talk about some of your big achievements. And one of them being the Pipeline Scholarship. So we kind of hinted at, like, and if you don't know who and he just won the Pipeline Scholarship right now. Literally, we've been talking about it all day, and for like the last 3 weeks, as we kind of introduce him in here. But he was one of the first three chosen for the Pipeline Scholarship, and how has that impacted just everything? How's that made a difference for you since you got that?
I mean, I say it all the time, and as cliche as it sounds, I mean, it literally has been life changing. It has taken me from wanting to do this full time to now having the means to make this a full time career and do it effectively, efficiently, and strive for those next levels of success. Right. So it's the mentorship session. I mean, they do have a monthly stipend, which is great. I mean, it's extra cash, which obviously helps and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they hook us up with a crap ton of swag as well, and this isn't even all of it. I got more coming. Uh, and that is nice, but like all of this, I mean, oh, you can't really see it all, but it's over there. um But all of this doesn't make you a better streamer. Yes, it'll increase the quality. Yes, it will increase that, but it's not going to increase your camera presence. It's not going to increase your marketing. It's not going to increase your branding. It's not going to increase anything that actually matters to help you grow. Where that comes in spades is with the mentorship.
Yeah.
And there is unlimited value. It is literally the most valuable thing of the scholarship. Getting these one-on-one experiences with marketing specialists that does like marketing for Stone Mountain 64 and others, getting Zygo Media to edit your YouTube videos, optimize your YouTube channel and everything else, who work with like Ninja, Tim the Tapman, Stone Mountain 64, and so many other legends in this industry.
Yeah.
As an up and coming streamer, we would never have that opportunity to be able to bring them on board unless you've already got a nice little nest egg in your back pocket to rely on, right? So that is massive. Social media support and guidance and optimization, which social media, there's so much to cover in that area
Mm-hmm.
that it's an ongoing thing. And luckily, we get open lines of communication after the mentorship as well with these individuals, these leaders in the industry. And it is literally invaluable. There's no dollar amount I could place on the amount of knowledge I've gained, and I'm still continuing to gain moving forward.
So I know we kind of talked about this before we did the stream, but it's a question I want to ask you. I know you've been asked this like 100 times at this point because you told me you got like a million messages of people wanting advice. But what do you recommend for someone that's applying for the scholarship? What do you like? What advice would you give them moving into the scholarship if you qualify? By the way, don't waste people's time. If you don't qualify, literally, just be patient. You'll get there.
Yeah, so I have been asked this a lot. I mean, I'm getting anywhere upwards of 5 to 20 DMs a day lately from people who have either never asked or never spoken to me before that have found out that I'm one of the scholarship recipients and looking for some advice and guidance on how to sort of take the best step forward and what they're looking for. And there's a few things I would say to definitely keep in mind, and one of them is that Pipeline and Corsair, they're both brands. They both have an image. They both have a name that they have to protect. And if at
Mm-hmm.
any time your content comes into question where this might not match our branding or our message or what we want to send out on both Pipeline and Corsair's part, then the chances are diminished of you getting accepted over somebody um who that's not as big of a risk, right? So
Mm-hmm.
one of the things a lot of people have been asking me is like, what do you think set you apart to allow you to get this first scholarship? And one of them that I feel very strongly helped me is I'm a family friendly streamer. I'm PG streamer. um there's no like, cussing or branding
Mm-hmm.
or like trash talking or anything like that. Nothing that would
Yeah.
look bad on either brand that ever happens like in my stream. So I'm a very low risk investment, if you will, in that space. Now that doesn't mean that you have to be family friendly to get it. Because I know there's a ton of creators out there that aren't family friendly that are still very, very brandable. So it's
Yeah.
just how you conduct yourself, how you interact with your community, how you like if you promote something, even if you're not sponsored, like I get a new chair and I talk about it and they see that on their stream and you're just ripping them apart and you're not saying anything nice about them or anything like that, then they're gonna be like, maybe we're not gonna bring this guy on.
Yeah.
So
Probably not a good idea.
yeah, so how you conduct yourself, how you promote products that you're using, and your interaction with your chat and your community, that's all things they're going to look at. And don't think that they're not looking. Especially if you're a pipeline streamer,
Mm-hmm.
there is staff always watching. They'll either watch your VODs, they'll be lurking under other accounts in your communities. You'll never know. And some of my most humiliating moments seems to always be when all of a sudden Snoopy pops into chat as I'm dressed like a giant bear doing a friggin' plank on the floor or something like that, right? Like they're always around, they're always watching,
We never
and keep
do
that in mind.
embarrassing stuff on
Yeah.
streams. Pride is a thing that no longer exists. So,
And then the next biggest tip I give is take the time on your application. Don't rush through it. Don't half arse it. Uh, Take the time. There is thousands of people applying. thousands of people that are all thinking the same way and trying to get into this. So do something that's going to be
Hmm.
unique. Do something that's going to help you stand out and above everybody else, because you only have the space within the application and one, what is that, I think a minute and a half video or less,
It's like 2 minutes or
to
something like that.
stand
Yeah.
out and to show off like who you are. So take the time, plan it out, storyboard your video, make it unique. Don't just do the same thing that you see everybody else doing. Go and take a risk. Push yourself, like be like, everybody's doing this. I'm going to try to do this. And for myself, I got my community involved because I am so community driven.
Hmm.
Why would I sit in front of a camera and tell you myself why I deserve to be a scholarship recipient? Instead, I'm going to let the people who matter most, which is my community, tell you a little bit about me.
Yeah.
And that's how I approached it for my video. And I got actual members of my community to say their honest opinions about me and why they stick around and why they believe I should get the scholarship. And with all of those combined, I mean, I got accepted, so I guess
Yeah.
I guess it worked. So,
And I think
um,
everyone unanimously was like, yes, IronSmithy. Everyone was like, everyone was stoked that I know of was like, oh,
yeah,
IronSmithy got in. That's so awesome. And I know I've said it before, but I'm gonna say it again. Congratulations. I know that was such an awesome opportunity, and you're still involved with it right now.
yep,
Um, so what we're gonna get some questions, and then we're gonna close it in, bring it in, and I'm gonna disable guide the raid as well because I already know who we're gonna raid after this is all said and done. It is somebody's birthday today, so we're gonna send some love that way. But Floridan asked a very very important question. Let's talk beard products. What you using? that's
yeah.
its
No,
question.
I saw that question too. Uh, so beard products. Funny you should ask. So I actually use Grave Before Shave is the brand. No, this is not sponsored. Nothing like that. But Grave Before Shave is what I use for like my beard oils, balms, everything like that.
Hmm.
Um, that's my go-to. I can't
Nice.
remember the exact smell, if you will, the odor of it. It's something Viking. I just can't remember the exact title, but it's something that I got introduced to in the military. I think they have some really like sort of unique branding, and their products are really really good. So
Yeah.
I've got nothing but positive things to say about them, and that's what I use from my day to day.
Awesome. Awesome. So Shadow asks, how can you grow with only doing one game or platform?
So I think, see, the way I look at things is I sort of flip it in the sense of how do you grow with multiple streams? Because in my opinion, it's easier to grow as a single game streamer because you have that community to tie into. You get invested into that community. Those members come in, they know what to expect, and you don't have any fall off on your next stream, right? If you're streaming one day, like let's say we're doing horror games, let's say Dead by Daylight one night, you have community members that come in that like watching Dead by Daylight, and then the next night you go in and you play Phasmophobia. But people that liked Dead by Daylight might not like Phasmophobia. So you're going to lose some
Hmm.
of those people and then gain some other people from Phasmophobia. But then when you go back to Dead by Daylight, then you're going to lose the Phasmophobia people. And you know what I mean? Like it's a constant give and take balance going back and forth in that aspect. Whereas maining one game, you gain people in, they come in that day, they watch you, they like your stream, then they come back the next day and it's like, oh, he's playing Sea of Thieves again. They're staying for that next stream. And
Yeah.
then you're gaining more people in, right? And you keep gaining people in by advertising, by doing stuff behind the scenes off stream, by engaging on Twitter, engaging with Sea of Thieves Twitter, by posting photos, interacting with other community members' photos. Like Alea Sabrina takes a lot of amazing Sea of Thieves photos and reacting with hers and retweeting her stuff and just keeping the community growing on multiple platforms and not just on your stream,
Yeah.
and using other avenues like YouTube as well to feed into your Twitch and like having everything cross promote each other. I think is how I've been able to succeed just playing one game.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, just great advice. So Shadow, hopefully that answered your question. Um, Alea Sabrina asks, how numb is your butt? And what's the latest shipping update for the new chair? This is not far from the par from our own stream here. Like, we're gonna get weird questions. So I'm already anticipating the weirdest questions coming your way. So
No update on the shipping of the chair yet. And so far we've only been doing this for like an hour, so my booty's in that that neutral state. It's not completely numb yet, but we're getting there. We're getting there. So anybody from my community knows that like I had a lower back surgery when I was in the forces that destroyed a ton of nerve endings from like my lower part of my spine into the sort of like top part of my booty. And so when I sit for a long period of time in this chair, it's very uncomfortable. So and like I'll get like numbness and that. So I got to stand up and move around and stuff like that every now and then. But we do have a new chair coming in from Corsair. That's why I said this list isn't completely done yet.
yeah.
And we got a really nice chair that looks super, super comfy. It's got amazing reviews and everything like that. So I can't wait for it to come in. And of course, because it's one of the things I'm hyped about the most, it's one of the things that that is a little bit delayed coming in. So, but it'll get here eventually, and I can't wait for it. So,
And when it
very, very
does,
excited.
the butt will feel so good, won't it?
It's gonna be a glorious moment.
So, Crazy Wilson asks, so is it better to stream multiple games or better to stream one game? I think this is based on the question that Shadow had asked.
Yeah, so we sort of touched on this already. I mean, it depends. It does depend. So there is people that are very, very compelling to watch no matter what they're playing, right? Um, that no matter what it doesn't matter what they play, you're there to watch them. So if you've got that kind of personality where you're just gonna stand out and you're goofy and you're funny and you're making people laugh and they're there to watch you, then you can play whatever the heck you want and you're still gonna grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
If your niche, if your skill set is more on like high level content and high level gameplay, then I would say play into that niche, find something that you're really good at, and stick with that one game to see the most amount of growth. And if you're somewhere in the middle, I still feel like a single game will give you the best chance of success for growth over variety gaming, just because variety gaming, if they're there to watch the game, like I said, you're going to have that give and take viewership where when you're playing this game, you're going to have those viewers. And then when you switch to the next game, doesn't mean that all the viewers from the previous one, even if they're in the same category, like even if they're horror, not all the viewers may like the new horror game that you're playing, right? So
Yeah.
so there's always going to be sort of that give and take when you're doing variety. In my opinion, this is all my opinion. This is not, this is not, don't take it for gospel or anything like that. Cause I do know there's people that are very successful as variety streamers. And I think when those people are, especially as they're just getting started, it's either they're playing like non-saturated games and sticking within a niche that is very, very close to each other to switch up those games, or they're at a very, very high level of skill in those games, and people latch onto them to learn from them and their skill sets that they have, right? Because generally what you'll see, like if it's a variety streamer, they'll be like first person shooter variety streamers, or they'll be horror variety streamers or something like that, right? They don't generally jump all over the place from like a first person shooter to an MMO to an action RPG to generally they'll stick within the same sort of
we never
niche.
do that. we
I
never
mean,
do that here.
I mean, I've done it recently, so but like even myself now, right? Just to sort of break up Sea of Thieves, as much as I love Sea of Thieves and there is so much to do, we added in a variety day. So every Sunday is something other than Sea of Thieves. That's something we did, even though we main Sea of Thieves. That's our game, that's our focus. That's what my entire YouTube channel is about. Every Sunday we take a break and we play something else. We play some Valheim. Last Sunday we played some WoW. We've played Black Flag, Assassin's Creed Black Flag the other day, which still sort of tied in with Sea of Thieves, but was something new and different to play and stuff like that. So doing something like that can still feed your want of new games, but not also tear down your community at the same time.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Well, I think we made it through all the questions. So I got a couple more for you. First, what does the future hold for IronSmithy? What is in the works? What is in the plans that you can talk about? Uh, what are some big things you have coming out? you're hoping for, anyways.
What can I talk about? What can I talk about? I will say there is a large charity event that I'm planning for the 10th of April. I can't say much more than that on it, but there is going to be a large charity event. It will be a 1 day, 1 evening thing with a lot of moving parts and a lot of different people coming together to make an amazing night happen with some really, really cool giveaways as well. That's going to be in there and some milestones that should we hit them are going to be very worthwhile for the community. Um, we have a new video dropping tomorrow that is not Sea of Thieves on YouTube. That is going to be a little thank you to the community for an amazing year as we're leading into our
Awesome.
1 year anniversary. And then this Friday is our 1 year anniversary. So we got some unique things planned for that. We are also giving away an Elgato Wave 3 microphone, which is sitting in that back cabinet that's cut off right now and you can't see. And I keep pointing to it. Um,
There's a lot of
um,
stuff in the background, by the way. I could see it
yeah.
before. I can see it on my screen over here. I'm sorry, I cut a lot of it off for this screen here, but dude has some stuff in the background.
But
He's
yeah,
got a lot.
Friday is going to be our 1 year anniversary stream. So we're bringing back some of the OGs, some of the original people that introduced me to Sea of Thieves. And we're doing a large giveaway, like I said, and Elgato Wave
Hmm.
3 is going to be given away. We have some other things that we're going to keep as a surprise for the stream. There may be some new costumes, there may be, some new redeemables for the community, and generally it's going to be a little bit of a longer stream. We're going to start a little bit earlier, do maybe a little bit of a just chatting thank you segment at the beginning, and then we'll move into Sea of Thieves with our OG crew to enjoy the night together and have a good time celebrating our 1 year anniversary. So that's sort of the immediate future stuff that I could talk about, and then we got some other things coming. So stay tuned. 2021 is going to be a big year, and I can't wait to see where we're at moving into 2022.
Awesome. Well, for those, I did it wrong the first time. I'm redoing it again. We're gonna shout out IronSmithy. So I definitely recommend going and giving him a follow. Make sure you, especially if he's gonna be doing this charity thing, we're gonna try to be there as well. We're gonna follow him on Twitter too. Do all the follows, guys. You know what to do. But no, man, it's been awesome. I appreciate having you on here. But what is your, before we leave, what is the number one piece of advice you want to leave people with? Your big nugget of wisdom.
Mm, the big nugget of wisdom that we haven't. I mean, I feel like it would come back down to being yourself, being active with your community, and never take them for granted. I think I see it all too often where sometimes we start getting comfortable, we
Mm-hmm.
start growing, and we start achieving things. Never expect that that's always going to be the case. Like
Yeah.
always treat them with respect and treat every moment of generosity like it's the first time it's ever happened, because you never know when that's going to be the last type of thing,
Yeah.
right? So be yourself, be authentic, and don't ever take your community for granted. I think that's the biggest thing, because in this industry it can switch any day. So
Yeah. 100%. Iron Smithy, dude, thank you so much for hopping on here. It's been a pleasure. I told you it wasn't going to be more than an hour and a half, but
no worries,
I
no
said
worries,
an
eh?
hour ish. We got an ish in there. We're definitely in ish time now.
We're
Um,
in ish timing for sure.
but dude, it's been a pleasure. It's awesome to have you on here. It's great to see someone as positive and uplifting the community, getting and seeing good things coming from you, man. Um, I know, like I said, when you got the scholarship, pretty much everyone in the pipeline community was super stoked. We're like, yes,
Yeah.
yes, all right, we're good, we're good. Like this is, they chose good, they chose well, and you helped solidify that it was a great opportunity. So for those of you that qualify, I'm serious. I told you we're gonna put our hat in our name in the hat. You know what I mean. Um, but if you qualify, listen, it is a great opportunity. Don't 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 think you're not good enough. Put some effort, some time into it. Apply, and if you don't get it, it's okay. Just come back and work harder, and you never know what happens. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You can have a life-changing opportunity like IronSmithy, and watching him blow up has been awesome. He's doing incredibly well. Again, dude, thank you so much for hopping on. It's been a pleasure.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And whenever you want to do this again, man, don't hesitate to hit me up.
Absolutely.
It was a great talk, and I look forward to seeing the podcast when it comes out.
Well, we'll have it up hopefully by the end of this week. But again, man, have a good night. We'll talk to you soon. I'm gonna go ahead and deafen you now so we can
Sounds good.
switch over to the rest of the stream.